Okay, let's continue our review of the book Early Retirement Extreme, and this is going to be a relatively short video, I think, um, because it's a relatively short section in the book. It's just a few pages entitled Barriers to Change, but I think it's really important to realize what you might be up against as you get into content and concepts like the ones expressed in this book on our YouTube channel or in your own research, that you might have a desire to change, but you will be faced with many barriers along the way. You might be here on this channel or reading this book and realize a lot of the concepts are resonating with you and you want to make a change. You want to go from the now you to some future awesome you with financial penance, etc. But there will be barrier after barrier between you and there. And I want to highlight maybe the main reason that is the case. And let's get into this quote here. Many people associate their ideas and their thoughts with who they are as a person. This is not just a small barrier, but a significant barrier, since admitting that an alternative is better. So what you've been doing, your ideas and your thoughts in the past, you start to understand that there could be ideas and thoughts and a way of life and a lifestyle that is better, that is meant by alternative here. If that alternative is better, it is perceived as a personal failure. So if we kind of look at this as your ideas represent or equated to who you are. This notion right here is perhaps the top barrier. And why? Well, maybe the quote is apparent and I don't need to explain it any further, but oftentimes this equation here, ideas equaling who we are, is how we go through life. And it is we're not in a position to constantly assess and reassess the way we think, what ideas we're actually taking in. Are those the right ideas? Do those ideas represent actually the true situation? Or are we just passively consuming ideas as fact or as fiction? And maybe those ideas are actually accepted based on a seed of an idea that you took in many years ago. And now that idea and behaviors that you have engaged in that have followed from that idea have basically become your entire history, your entire experience, such that now if you were to entertain, not necessarily even accept, but entertain a counterpoint, a counter idea or thought, you would suddenly inwardly clam up because you would say, no, I've been living my entire life this way, and if I accept a point, a idea, a thought, a behavior that is different than my entire history details or showcases, then I must have been wrong all these years, and it's a personal failure. So we need to get away from this, and we need to get towards an idea where it's basically a framework. Let's just draw this real time. We need to get into a framework where there is an idea, and you could say like implement or test that idea, and you kind of measure, and then you go back. There's kind of a cycle here. And what this is showing, and this is related to finance, this is related to lifestyle, this is related to the Renaissance education, this is related to every single thing that you might have believed over the course of your life that could have, in some or in whole or in part, led to an existence where in a previous video we showcased that you're in the cave. You're in the cave. So this is a barrier to any kind of change that you want to make. And so step by step, it's hard to do this wholesale. Leaving the cave all at once is very difficult. But every idea should be tested. I've always thought it was that way. Is it that way? Is saving 10 or 15% of my income, is that good? Could I do 50? Could I do 75? Gotta test it. Gotta actually, maybe a better word than implement is challenge. Challenge. I'm going to be less active as I get older. Challenge that. Maybe you have political views that you've always accepted. You don't even try to see the counterpoint. Maybe you have spiritual views. You're religious in a certain way. You've never challenged those in any kind of way. And then you measure the results to find out what is true and what is not. So a quote that's specific to being frugal is necessary here, although the concepts throughout the book are much larger than just money. I think it's important here because a lot of times you might pick up a book like Early Retirement Extreme, or you watch a channel like ours, you think money, 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 gotta make a lot, want to make it fast so I can stop doing whatever I don't like doing. But in this case, the mistake many make when becoming frugal is they don't replace. Don't replace. Replace what? Their previous vision of accumulating more stuff with an equally strong vision of doing something else. Okay, this is a real danger. Let's see if we can plot this out on a graph here. Very simplistic here. But say your old vision, let's do it over here. Let's just do old. Your old vision over here might be stuff, and over here is success. And you might have just had basically, maybe it was unspoken, maybe you never actually communicated this way, but as if you early on you're leaving college and stuff, you have a certain volume of success. Okay, you got your first job, so it could be stuff, status, right? Stuff and status is probably the two biggest ones that we equate to success. And you kind of go over time here, and now you're 3 or 4 or 5 years out of your career, you have more stuff, and you got a little promotion, so now you have more status, right? Probably should have done that in a different color, but you can kind of keep coming here, and now you're like kind of midway in your career, and the stuff you had before, that's just piddly amounts. Now you got another promotion. You're a senior or something, or you're a director or vice president or something, right? You can see how this old vision is basically the cave. The old vision is the cave, right? Well, the new vision has to be, if you're going to replace this vision with something else, you can't just give up everything you've been holding on to. That basically stuff, status, the previous quote, are ideas. You start getting rid of those ideas. Start not caring about certain stuff. Stop caring about certain status. You have to bring in a equally strong vision of the future. Let's keep going, go quickly here. Barriers. This is a really important quote. Sorry here. Barriers represent a cost which must be paid. The willingness to pay depends on a combination of 3 different things. Combination of, number 1, the dissatisfaction with the present. the vision, your vision of the future, and the practicality of changing from the present situation to the future. So we keep this very simplistic, bring you back into my crude artwork here. This is your present. This is the present version of you. This is the future version of you. Okay, so you have an opportunity to increase dissatisfaction. You have an opportunity to increase the strong vision of the future, and you also need to increase the practicality of getting here. So this is 1, you could say this is 2, and then you need to be able to see the path from present to the future. If I draw the diagram, there's actually a nice diagram in the book, and see if I can get it correct here. Basically, let's see, basically he draws basically like a pyramid. So this is trying to be a pyramid that if you take any of the sides, this is, let's do a different color here. This is kind of the apex of the pyramid. This is a terrible looking pyramid, but we'll work with it. Okay. Dissatisfaction. And this is vision. This is vision. And this is practicality. And the more you increase, this is another way of trying to draw the situation here. So dissatisfaction, in our case, this is current, vision is future, practicality is getting from current to future. And the more you can increase these, the greater the volume of this underlying pyramid will be. Thus, the greater the willingness to pay. Okay, so it depends on a combination of these. The willingness to pay depends on a combination of these 3 things: dissatisfaction with your present situation or current situation. Got to create a compelling vision for your future. You got to do a step-by-step practicality of changing from the present to the future. And we'll get into a lot of these things in the course of this video series. The last thing I'll finish on is a quote, not from the book Early Retirement Extreme, but from the book Discipline Equals Freedom Field Manual by retired Navy SEAL Jocko Willink. And the reason I want to put this in here is because a lot of the barriers to change are related to barriers in your mind. The stuff you have equals success, the status you have equals success, the ideas and behaviors that you've engaged in equal who you are, it's your identity. All those things can be overcome. The only barriers that are truly there are inside you. So Jocko has this chapter called Mind Control. I'll paraphrase some of it. When people think of the words mind control, they think of people controlling the minds of other people, not me. I think about controlling my own mind. People ask me, how do I get tougher? You do this, I'm adding a few words here, you do this by being tougher. So the question is, how do I get tougher? Jocko's answer, be tougher. How can I wake up early in the morning? Wake up early in the morning. How can I work out consistently every day? Work out consistently every day. How can I stop eating sugar? Stop eating sugar. You have to decide that you are going to be in control, that you are going to do what you want to do. Weakness doesn't get a vote. Laziness doesn't get a vote. Sadness doesn't get a vote. Frustration doesn't get a vote. Negativity doesn't get a vote. So next time you're feeling weak or lazy or soft or emotional, tell those feelings they don't get a vote. You have certain thoughts, ideas, family members, loved ones that are becoming a barrier between you and where you want to be. From where you are today to reaching the financial independence, reaching a Renaissance lifestyle which you want to live in the future. Those things that are barriers don't get a vote. You know how you save more money? You save more money. You know how you spend less? You spend less. You know how you develop the skills necessary to have a Renaissance lifestyle? You develop the skills necessary to live a Renaissance lifestyle.